I said cup.
I thought you said cut.
I like it too. I like that too.
I do like your mug as well.
Thanks. I like my mug too.
Anyway, hi everyone. Welcome to Book Club with Bae. I am Bae and this is Bae. Say hi, Bae.
Hi, Bae.
That was funny. And this is other Bae. Say hi.
Hello to me and to Levi Ackerman.
Today we are talking about Poison Study, the first book in the Chronicle of Ixia series. Can you explain how the structure of this series is going to work?
Yeah, okay, it's like multiple series in a series.
Yeah, so there's 3 series, and then there's the overarching, encompassing title of the combination of the 3.
Okay.
So there's the the Study series, the Glass series, and then the 3rd series is referred to as the second half of the Poison series or the Soulfinder series.
Okay.
And then
the whole thing is Chronicles of Ixia.
Yes. Which makes no sense because, you know where we're going by the end of this book. Probably about 80% of the series is in Cydia.
Okay.
We do go back to Ixia a few times, but
it's really the Chronicles of Cydia.
Yeah.
Well, you know. Okay. So we have that covered. Let's start as always with ratings.
Yes.
So I was whelmed.
I was whelmed too.
I was whelmed.
Me 3. Okay, this was in the most exciting of the books.
Yeah.
Well, one thing
he's so big.
Before we get into the he is. But before we get into the other parts of the ratings, something that I don't know how if you could have prepared me for this, but that I wasn't prepared for was the writing style. So in a lot of places, the writing style felt like bullet points to me.
Yes. I didn't know how to articulate that.
Yeah, where it would be like, skipping over this, we did this, then this, then this, then this, and moving the fuck on, which was efficient, but also I found it hard to be anchored into some of the scenes, and maybe that was on purpose, and that's fine. But because some of them were just a general overview of my day. Like if you were like, Teresa, how was your day? And I was like, well, first we went to the store again, and then we're having technical difficulties, which makes it a true book club episode.
Ain't that the truth? Mara's having headphone issues.
Yeah,
and I don't want to.
Nah. If there's an echo, we'll let you know.
Okay. One thing in regards to her writing style, I discovered yesterday that she is a pantser. She writes by the seat of her pants. Because I found it's actually, I should have sent it to you guys. Fuck, I forgot. She only did this for Poison Study, but she has like an old blog, and she does chapter notes for each chapter.
Okay.
Of it. And we'll get into that when we get past ratings.
So I found that I don't know, it was sometimes just hard to get anchored into it because like I said, it's kind of like if you were to say some of the chapters or some of the sections were like, if you were to ask me, hey Teresa, how was your day? And I was like, well, we woke up, we went to the store, and then Carbine went out and we had dinner and moving on. And that's how some of it's written. And it was a little jarring. It's not my favorite. It's not my favorite thing, but I'm not mad at it enough to say like, oh, it's terrible, because it's just a writing style, and it's not a writing style that jives with me, but that doesn't make it bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't recall if it's as prevalent in later books because there's a lot more happening.
Okay.
Because half of this book was just like poison training, poison tasting.
Yeah, and so like I said,
it was very cyclical at times.
Yes, yeah,
and that was my whelm. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, and like I said, for me, it's not that it's necessarily a bad thing. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it's terrible. The writing's terrible. A certain writing style is not enough to make me like, oh, I hate it. It's just not. So, real quick, though, I want to talk about plotting versus pantsing. So, plotting is when you do things like an outline and that kind of thing, and then pantsing is when you don't do that. And
just see where the story takes you.
Yeah. So my boyfriend's dad actually, because he knows I write books, was actually asked me like, how do you even do that? Like, what do you do? And I was like, well, I plot. I'm a plotter, but some people don't. And I
can't imagine that.
And I just don't get it. So
I don't either.
Because I'm working on a project now, and something that I have discovered, at least, is that in the beginning, I like taking a mixed approach. So something I'll do now is if I just have a sudden burst of inspiration, I feel like writing, because oftentimes when I am plotting or in doing like the before stuff, I still just want to write. Like I still have that urge. So I'll let myself kind of draft some scenes, and I have found that gives me just writing in the world and with the characters does give me some direction, because it'll kind of tell me even before I make a character chart whether or not the character traits I have in mind will work just with the tone and whether or not I feel like the characters mesh and that sort of thing. So I find that in the beginning a combo works for me, but I cannot imagine writing a whole book without plotting it out. Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah, well, like, and it looks like as well she didn't go back and change much of what, she would see where it would go, and then she didn't really go back and
wouldn't set
really
it up.
Change anything.
Yeah. It felt like she was pantsing it at times, because like she wouldn't go back and set up things that because like for a while I was like, what's the point? Like, why are we here? What's happening? What is the story? I get it. She murdered someone who and there's magic. I get it.
Yeah, I spent a lot of
going?
I spent a lot of the book wondering where we were going as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say though that said, there are a few things that she writes in here that she was like, that's just a throwaway comment. I'll never use that again. And then she brings it in. So not knowing, like having read the whole of the Chronicles, going back and reading it, like I'm picking up all these things, I'm like, you planned that. And then no, she didn't. Even when she mentioned it, she had no plans for that to come back. And then she was like,
so
no.
I have an anecdote about this. Even when you're plotting, like this happened with Blackwoods. Sometimes we would get stuck on something, like, what do we do? How do we do this? And we would say to each other, okay, instead of sitting here on the floor, because that's where we usually plan, is on the floor.
We sit on the floor.
It's the
trifold in front of us.
Yeah, and so we would say to each other, okay, instead of sitting here for hours trying to be clever, what do we already have? And we would list out things that we already had. So we would be like, we have this character that made an appearance but we haven't really used. Let's use it. And stuff like that. And so that kind of goes back to some of the advice we've given before, which is if you don't make a new character, if you can look back and say, this character can fill this role, we can make this character do this thing. And that way, even if you have a minor character or somebody that's just kind of in the background, instead of making a new character, you can say, well, we're just going to have this character do something. It's going to make people go, oh, cool, the bread baker from 2 books ago.
Yeah, right.
And so I find that, I mean, perhaps that's what she did, where instead of, like, maybe she didn't plan it, but you can go back and be like, what do I have that, like, I didn't use that much, or that's just kind of there waiting for me to make you feel like I'm a genius. I find that works really well.
Yeah, I did find because I've never actually sat and listened to these books to actually think to do book club.
Right. And doing book club and reading a book for a book club is different. And I often find that like I have the most, I guess, like well-rounded opinion on a book if I've read it before. So like the Mercy books, before we even did those, started doing this for book club, I think I had read all of them.
You had read them, yeah. All the ones that had been at that point, yeah.
Yeah, I had read all of them. So when I was going back, I already kind of knew. So it was easier for me to kind of, because I already knew the story, to really analyze it. So I find that that's something I like doing, is reading it twice, which oftentimes we just don't have time for. But
yeah.
But yeah.
One thing, because this one probably feels the weirdest to me out of the original study series, and it clicked why. Because we are doing so we did a thing and then a thing and then a thing and then a thing. We don't spend a lot of time witnessing her building the relationships with Ari, Jenko, and very little of her relationship with Valak. We see a lot of them.
That's something that
but they
stuck
spend
out
a lot
to
more
me
time
too.
together than what we see, because they're living together for months. Whereas future books, it's if we just accept where their relationships are at by the end of the book, their relationships are fine, like they're good in subsequent books from memory. Like you buy it, but the new relationships she forms as she goes, we actually get to see how those change and develop.
Right. Yeah, I really, and to kind of just build on your point, this book could have done with some useful fluff.
Oh my God, yes. Y'all know I'm a romance stan, right? Y'all know I buy
honestly, you'll buy anything, and it's great, and I love that about you.
I didn't buy this.
Yeah,
I walked by it on the shelf. I just said I don't like. It's just because like there was, I think, set up, but it wasn't really shown. It was just like, oh, I miss him. Oh, that's weird. Continuing on.
She was originally planning, like in her head, but like when she sat down to write, she was originally going to have maybe Yelena and the Commander. Then this was before she knew about the Commander. Because she didn't know about the Commander until I don't know what point, because I haven't gotten that far into the chapter notes. But she'd written at least half the book before she knew about the Commander.
The Commander's fucking 40.
Yeah. Well, that was
hold on.
He's already 33.
Pause. We're gonna get into characters. We're gonna get into characters, and I think we're also gonna add a section to books like this, which is world building. But let's finish ratings. Stan or don't stan?
I stan.
I don't have enough information.
You know what? I'm gonna say this. I am neither here nor there. It's not that I don't stan. I just don't have enough to latch on to yet, which
I agree.
Yeah.
So it's not that we do not stand.
I don't not stand. We don't not stand.
We don't not stand.
Okay.
Kind of in tandem with
I know you're a bit iffy on the relationship, but I will say their relationship, probably the healthiest of any book romance I've ever read. Ever.
As long as it gets better, because it was 0 to like fucking 100.
Yeah,
like he showed zero interest in her, and then suddenly they were fucking. I was like, okay.
What I'm gonna say in the stand don't stand category as well is that it's not enough to keep me like I don't stand and I don't stand forever. Because I am completely open to the fact that it gets better. Like one thing about like my favorite, Patricia Briggs is one of my favorite authors, but my favorite books are by Mark Lawrence, and honestly, his writing gets better every book he releases, and I am completely open to that. We all start somewhere, and I think the only thing that makes you a truly bad author is if you never improve.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
No, I swear, if you two are not as cranky as me about the thing that I'm cranky about in the Glass series, I'm going to start you both.
Okay, that's I've noted.
Is the Glass series the same characters, or is it completely different characters? Everything.
Oh yeah, I meant to ask you that too.
We meet the protagonist of Glass series in this series, and then we get to see quite a few familiar faces. Plus,
we get cameos in the Glass series. Okay.
Okay. So it's kind of like
some of the major characters of this series end up being major characters in Glass. Some are cameoed, and some are just mentioned.
So it's kind of like Bloodlines. How Bloodlines is to
I guess so. Yeah,
Vampy Academy.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, so real quick before we move on, food ratings. I have one. My food rating is.
I'll tell you why.
My food rating is spaghetti from a restaurant. So my mom makes my favorite kind of spaghetti. I really like her spaghetti, but spaghetti from a restaurant is fine, and I'm not mad at it. That's how I feel.
Ashley?
For me, it's a similar vein. Where it's like when you're at the store and you really want a certain brand of something, like you're really craving like Velveeta mac and cheese. Like that's what you want really bad, and you get there and they only have Kraft, and you're like, I guess, I suppose. So it's a very similar vein.
Yeah. I am going to rate this because I like this book more than you do. I'm going to rate it. I'm going to rate it a nice bit of dark chocolate, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Criollo chocolate.
Freaking Criollo.
Magic chocolate. It literally is. Criollo is another word for chocolate. And in the next book, it gets a different name. And that's how I discovered it. Because I'm like, that word sounds familiar. And I Googled it, and it was chocolate. And I was like, and I was excited because it was chocolate. That was a really over-enthusiastic pen throw. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So that's, and we're also real quick though. We're also checking things off on our thing. Oh, another thing. So once we finish Morganville, we've talked about this, and I want to mention this because it's a series a lot of people have been asking us to do for a long time. And that is we're going to do the Dresden Files. We will probably sandwich it between things because it's a very long series. But I started reading them because I wanted to read. I've been interested, but also when I read urban fantasy, a lot of urban fantasy is heavy on romance and boinking, which is just not what I read urban fantasy for personally. And I knew that this was sort of like Mercy in that the boinking is not at the forefront. Like, so I was interested. As of right now, yeah. As of right now, I like them enough to do book club. I mean, look, in fairness, it's not like it's longer than the entire Mercyverse thing that we've done over the years. And we'll break it up because otherwise we'll just be stuck.
We'll get burnt out.
Yeah, we'll be stuck with the same books for a long time. But God, looking at our book club sheet, we have so much to do. Sorry.
I know. We'll eventually get through it all, but we'll have already got how many books to it by then. So
when you're done editing the sheet, let me know so I can just peruse it.
Yeah, I will. Okay, so
characters.
With that being said, let's start with characters, and then we'll get to world building. So yeah, let's do that. So characters. So the main character is Yelena, and how do we all feel?
She's fine.
She's fine.
She's fine.
Yeah, I'm. unlike a lot of the books we've read, I don't dislike her.
Yeah, like she's just fine.
She's very, like, this is probably the least emotionally stable we see her. So she's 19 years old. We start the book off with her in the dungeon, ready to be executed for murder. And she's had a rather traumatic past. And one thing that I thought you would appreciate, Faye, is we don't, aside from like her remembering what's happened, that is literally about the extent of what we have to deal with.
Which is fine. And
she makes like a snarky comment, I think, a couple of times throughout the series.
Okay.
When it's relevant. But yeah, no, this is as traumatized as we see her, this book.
Okay. I can live with that. That's fine with me.
Yeah. So I thought you'd appreciate that. Because I know you don't like it when they bang that drum for the entire series.
It's true.
It gets tiresome. Like, it's fine, but it does get tiresome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's been one of our biggest complaints in Mercy Thompson is like.
But she's still having panic attacks in book 10.
Well, and part of the problem is that in the Mercy series, like if you actually look at the timeline, let me pull it up. Sorry, guys.
I think it's been about 2 years.
Yeah. So
the Grayson book and that book. Give or take.
So Iron Kissed happens in September of year 1. By Smoke Bitten, we're in August of year 3. So it's been
2 years.
2 years, and that's it. Which in real life, yeah, you would still be healing. It's just that, for the difference between book 3 and book 12.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot. But again, I have a bigger problem with authors that just ignore things than I do with authors that don't. Like,
yeah, I think because we get a moment where because the moment where she finally makes peace with her past in this book, and I say finally, like it's been for ages. Like she spent like a year in a dungeon, in solitary in a dungeon, and then this book. So but she there's a moment where at the end when the fighting ends, she just looks at because she sees that she sees ghosts or whatever, or at least she sees Rayad's ghost throughout the course of this book. She tells him to go away, and
be gone, thought.
And it's that's she finally actually had the strength to she's like, no, I'm done with this, and she's like, go away, and because she's never actually told him to go away throughout the book. And then so I think we got, at least it wasn't just like, oh well, that book's over, we don't need to deal with it. She at least gave us the moment where
some sort of closure.
Yeah. So anyway, other characters.
Valak.
Yeah.
Our love interest.
Our love interest.
Slash mentor. He's an mentor for the beginning of the book, and then we get other mentors later.
Yeah.
Mentor / captor /
love interest.
Love interest. Who is
/ roommate.
He is 14 years older than her. She actually, in her blog, she was in the chapter notes at one point. She was like, I was really expecting to not be able to get the book published because of the age difference, but here we are.
When you put it that way, that's my parents' age difference. So I guess I can't be that mad.
When I was 21, I dated a few guys that were 35. So I'm
well, and one thing. Sorry,
it's just weirder because she's 19.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we talked about in our group chat was like that for whatever reason, when age, and we talked about this before, when age differences are like 100 years, I don't know why.
It doesn't matter.
I think the reason why it might feel different is that you can't imagine dating somebody who's 100 but not. But you can imagine dating a 33-year-old at 19, and your brain goes, I don't know about that.
Yeah, like I'm good.
Look, if this was set in real world, with her being her age, him being his age, like not the age difference itself, just the age difference at her age.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it might not even be. Honestly, I think it's because of how he talks to her and how she talks to him. Like they don't have, like I don't feel like there's anything predatory at all.
No.
About their relationship.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
I think that might be where I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
because he trusts her to hold her own, and that continues throughout the entire series. Like there's been a couple of times. There's this one scene in one of the future books where she's in a really bad situation, and he comes to rescue her, and she's like, "I'm good," and he's like, "You're about to die," and she's like, "No, I'm good," and he's like, "Okay, well, I'll give you 5 minutes, and if you're not good by then, I'm coming back." And she's like, "I need to," and it's like, you know, and he's like, "Cool, have fun," and he just like locks the door and walks away. So yeah.
So
like
who else do
they have a more of a partnership than a predatory relationship,
which is fine.
We have the commander.
The commander,
Ambrose,
the military dictator of Ixia. Who?
Do you understand the question I asked Mara now when I was like, it's in regards to genitalia?
Did my answer without the context make sense with the context?
What was your answer?
So her question was like, is this legit, or was it like a mind fuck, or effectively, was that right? Like
essentially it was like, is Ambrose really a woman? Yes. Or is this like is this transgender? Is this like, what is this?
And the answer is yes. Ambrose really is Ambrosia. Commander is transgender, and more will be explained at a later point in time.
Yes. Oh, what you said to me was, yes, Ambrose is missing a penis, and there's reasons. That's what you told me. That was your exact response.
Yes, there's reasons.
Okay.
I can accept that. I can accept that. Move on.
Start getting hints at reasons.
So, are there any other characters we need to go over?
The friends. Yeah, Ari and Janko, which are our friends.
We've got the tall, lean, fast one, and the shorter, stockier, broody one.
I liked them. I did like them.
Yeah, I did too.
I love Ari and Janko. I love them. They're good at they effectively, Yelena gives props about them to the commander, so they get promoted, and then they're like, let's be best buds and we'll train you to fight. And she's like, yes, please. And then they become BFFs, and then they become more like brothers to her than.
Yeah. Then we have Brazel.
Brazel.
Okay. Yeah. Every time I typed it, it was like Brazil. And I was like, no, I know what I'm typing. So I had to like mentally be like Brazel. Otherwise, in my notes, he would have been Brazil. Which he like kidnapped her when she was young.
He raised Yelena in an orphanage, and she killed his son.
Because they abused her and tortured her and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So so with the world, there was a king. He was a corrupt king, bad guy. Like we're fine with the king being killed. Like we're not going to find out like books later. Like king was actually an okay guy, and the commander's a dick. No, like king was naughty and rude. and Commander and Valak join forces and team up, and Valak slays the king. Commander
Valak is the King Slayer.
He is. And then the country gets divided up into military districts, and each district is run by a general. Brazil is the general of the district next to the commander's district.
There is a map also.
Well, yeah, so let's get into the world building. Let me pull up.
Then there's
Do you have it, or do you want
Cydia?
to pull it up?
Cydia in the
idea.
southern border. There's magic people there. That's really, and like the commander doesn't want anything to do with any magic people, so they've like refused trade, and trade with them is illegal, and like stuff from Cydia is like contraband, essentially.
Yes. Do you want me to?
So
Okay.
this is the map. So you have the territory of Ixia, and then obviously the rest of the things.
Ixia's district borders are nice and neat.
Yeah, I like that's aesthetically pleasing.
And Cydia is less neat.
Yeah.
But you'll notice though, right? If you zoom in towards like the commander's castle.
Where? Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I was like, where is that?
So you'll notice the commander's castle is pretty close to the border, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you go down to that star in the Featherstone Clanlands, that's where the citadel is in Cydia.
Cydia is
So
this
that's
whole.
the-
Is Cydia this whole area down here?
Yeah, Cydia is everything south of the Snake Forest.
Okay.
And the forest is where that exercise happens, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I
you'll
I
see-
should have looked at the map.
Yeah, so the castle and the citadel are pretty close together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That means nothing to the weather on this continent, just so you're aware. When Ixia has a hot or cold season, it's the opposite in Cydia. The commander's hot season ain't too hot. It's fine. It gets hot, but not too hot. Citadel is scorching. People can't be there in summer. Oh, in the hot season. Never mind the fact that they're only 3 days ride apart.
Yeah. All right.
I'll roll with it.
As long as you're willing to ignore that, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's fine.
That's fine.
It works for the story. It just, I didn't pick up on. Maybe I'm okay with it though, because I hadn't seen a map of this until I had reread the series about 4 times, and everything made so much more sense to me. So I was already fine with the concept.
When she was like, I need to go south, like at the end of the day, I can just go south and then bye. I was like, are you really that close though? I was like that seems
Yeah, she's about a day's ride from the border at most, in the commander's castle.
Okay.
So they're pretty close.
So that is our world building section. Or is there anything else we need to say?
I think that's pretty much the gist of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, magic is outlawed in Ixia. Magicians get.
Oh yeah, yeah. They get deaded.
Or if they get smuggled down to Cydia. One or the other.
Yeah. Or they're stolen from Cydia and then go back to Cydia. Yeah.
Yeah. So plot.
Yep. Plot.
We're in a dungeon.
Let us begin. Yes.
We're in a dungeon having a flashback.
Yeah, we're in a dungeon having a flashback, and then we get taken from the dungeon to an office where we meet our love interest.
Well, before that, we figure out that we find out why she's in the dungeon. She killed somebody. She
killed a general's son.
Yeah, she killed a general's son, and she thinks she's about to be executed. At this point, we don't really know why she did it.
Yeah.
Um,
You can start to infer with the beginning flashback sequence, but
yeah.
But we don't really understand the full extent or motivations or any of that sort until way later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Or
then
like
she
what
gets
set
taken
her
to
off.
see Alec.
Yep.
And he's like, I heard you did a murder. And she's like, I did indeed do a murder. And he's like, why? And she's like, none of your beeswax. And he's like, would you like to not get executed today? And she's like, what does that mean? And he goes, you can be the commander's food taster because we are living in a time where poisoning is a thing and food tasters are still a thing. And she's like, hell's yes. And he's like, cool. And that's chapter 1.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, a lot of these chapters is it's like, all right, here's like 2 things and we move on.
Yeah.
Training begins. That's the next thing. And then he gives her a poison that stays in her system and she has to have an antidote to it every single day. And that's incentive for her not to like just run away. And then she finally bathes. I was very jilted by the fact that it took her so long to get a bath because this bitch was all of the disgusting that she does.
Yeah.
And that's chapter 2.
we meet Marge, who is the housekeeper for the commander and Valak, and she doesn't like Yelena.
No, Marg's kind of a bitch. What happened to Marg? Marg just kind of disappears. Marge.
Marge.
She's kind of disappears.
I don't know if we see her again in the future. I don't know.
She's okay. Well, she's not very important because she just kind of disappears. I guess she's important for some things.
Well, I guess
for the
like
whole.
Yeah, like I think we see her in a flashback at one point, but I don't know if we see her in book present
Real time again
at this point, in the future because she's just not relevant to come back. But she a bitch. She doesn't like Yelena.
Then we have more lessons. She smells one thing, and then it's back to her room, and then it's been 2 weeks. That's the pacing. That is the pacing of this book. And then he's having her try the most deadly poison, which is like my love, right? Like that's the only thing you can utter because the name of the poison's really long.
Have a drink, my love.
And she survives, but they're like, I don't know if she's gonna live, haha. But she does.
Yeah, and at this point as well, I don't know if it had actually been mentioned yet, but Brazil is currently at the castle because I think
it's about to be mentioned. Yes.
Yeah, and because my love makes you hallucinate.
Yeah.
And spell bodily fluids in every direction.
Not a cute poison.
And she overhears in her hallucination, and I think the reason it's there is because it actually happened. Is Marge is like, if she survives, you guys can have her.
Yeah.
She overhears her telling someone that.
Yeah.
And then Yelena wakes up covered in all of her own muck.
Yeah, like it's very gross. But then she sees the men in the uniform. Because every district has their own like colors.
Yeah, and every job has a uniform. That's one thing we didn't mention in world building. Every has a uniform, and the only differences between the districts is the colors of the uniform.
Yeah.
So the commander's colors are like the uniform space color in all the districts is black, and then the commander's color is red. Brazil's is green.
Yeah. So she does survive and goes to meet the cook, named Rand, and we find out that Valak seems to have killed some of the past tasters. Whoops.
In Valak's defense, I don't think with a lot of them, I don't think he actively killed them. He was just seeing if they were being lazy or not. And they were being lazy.
I think that's what it seems like to me because he has a vendetta against Valak. So like,
Yeah, we end up getting the reason for that later.
yeah.
As well.
Um,
But Rand's like, we also established in the scene, Rand is very big on the gambling.
yes. Yeah, he bets on her survival of the My Love potion or poison, and so he won that. But yeah, he has a gambling addiction. Then after that, we run into Brazel's Brazel.
Mhm.
Brazel's soldiers. They grab her, so she bites the shit out of the
Brazel.
hand and runs. Huh?
I should have told you how to pronounce his name. Brazel would be funner because it just sounds really camp.
Brazel.
When you say Brazel, I just see razzle dazzle.
Give him the old razzle dazzle.
Yes.
Then Valak finds her. She cut her hand on glass, and so like she's running, she's leaving a blood trail. She's like, "Oh, damn!" And then Valak finds her
because Brazel's guards are chasing her, and she breaks the window to try and fool them into thinking she yeeted out the window.
Yeah.
And they're like, "It's still here." She does a little weird hummy thing. They seem to freeze, and she yeets. And yeah, she has a pretty cut up arm.
He poisons. Did he kill them or did he just poison them?
He just
Unclear.
What it actually is called. It's called goo goo juice.
Good.
We don't find it out for a while, but it's his goo goo juice, okay? And it makes him goo goo. So he goo gooed.
All right. But they yeet. That's the only important thing. Then we meet the commander, Brazel. I don't think I'm gonna be able to not call him that now because you think it's funny. He's there. The guy she killed Ghost is like chilling behind his dad. We get some more world building that we've already talked about. And
I was like, I want her dead, and Commander's like, excuse you, no.
That's a food taster, bro.
But you can have a factory. And he's like, okay, thank you. I want my factory.
Yeah. Then she gets sleeping pills in the infirmary to go ZZZ for a minute.
And freaks the fuck out.
Yeah, she's like, is it poison? And the nurse is like, no, it's sleeping pills, you numpty.
That's, by the way, the medic's name is Medic Mummy.
Yeah, I chose to ignore that. I just chose to
You
ignore
won't be able
that.
to in future because we have more scenes with her in future books.
Cool. She starts thinking about what Brazel and his son did to her, which was experiments on her because they thought she had magic. Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I just found the thing where she's talking about in her notes about the age difference. She's like, as for the age difference, Yelena is 19 and Valak is 33 in Poison Study. Yes, that's 14 years, but Valak had to be old enough to be involved in the takeover of Ixia.
Yeah.
And old enough to learn how to be an assassin. So when I did the math, he was 33. When I was trying to find an agent publisher, I thought the book might be good for young adult readers, but every agent editor said the age gap was too big, so it was published as an adult novel. But many young adult readers read the book and enjoyed it.
Yeah, I figured that's why he was older, was for plot.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah.
And had New Adult existed at the time, and like pre-porn New Adult existed at the time, I would put this series in New Adult.
Yeah, because this is from 2005.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Which is before. I mean, a New Adult. I don't even know if New Adult is even like a big thing. I don't know if it's even like a generally recognized.
I don't think it is because it didn't really get a chance to establish its roots before it became porn.
Yeah.
So now it's just romance.
Then Rand visits her in the infirmary, and After that, Valak's like, don't trust him. Meh. Oh, do you want to talk about Valak's accent? Mara?
Let me find. I'll mute myself and I'll find him talking. Okay.
Apparently, he's British and no one else is British. That's what I've been told. I read, they listen, so yeah. It's time for her to take the test from Valak to see if she can start her job. Then we think again about what happened to her. This is when I was like, this is very cyclical. We're training for poison. We're thinking about what happened to her. We're, then some shenanigans, and then just back and just around to the circle over and over again. And then we find out here that there was a takeover. The commander overthrew the previous king. And I thought anyone who watches Handmaid's Tale that this scene, without the whole Handmaid's thing, this is set up very much like Gilead with the commanders and everything like that. And yeah, pretty cool. And then Valak insists that she moves into his quarters because of Brazel's soldiers trying to get her.
Yeah.
And Marge leaves a threatening note in the dust on her desk. Then she goes through all of Valak's shit. That's the entirety of chapter 9. She just goes through Valak's shit, snoops all around his apartment.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I will say I kind of didn't know how to feel.
Wait,
yeah, same.
I've been trying to find this voice.
Chapter 9. We're in chapter 9.
What happened
where
in
she was
chapter 9?
snooping through all of shit. Yeah, at this point, I really didn't know how to feel. I was just like, okay, can something happen now?
This point had me wondering, like, okay, well, what's the plot?
Yeah. I was wondering what the plot was at this point. I don't know when I started getting interested. I can't pinpoint the moment, but I did start getting interested. I did. It happened eventually.
I will say, like, scrolling through, so it was like, okay, I know a part where he talks a lot, and it's towards the end, and I realized, like, a good chunk of that final saga of, like, 10 different things happened in, like, the last hour and a half of the audiobook.
The last 3 chapters, man. 3 or 4 chapters. Like they have sex and then everything just happens. Which I think they had sex. The descriptions. They did. Yeah, the descriptions. It
was kind of just like, I thought I'd be icked out because, stuff had happened previously, but it was fun. It was good. It was nice. Our souls could have joined.
Yeah.
Our souls joined, and now we're waking up.
Yeah. To me, for some reason, reading that kind of description is weirder than just being like, penis went in vagina. Yeah, like for me, that's just easier to kind of read than the floofy-doo. But a lot of books do.
We've talked about that before.
She was originally targeting this towards young readers.
I know.
So,
I mean, but a complaint we've had about Mercy Thompson is that a lot of places where they're doing blank and you're like, what's going on? I don't understand. But then when we get extra description with Charles and Anna, I'm like, please go back to the floofy-doo. I'm uncomfy.
Well, I think because when Mercy and Adam do it, she uses a lot of euphemism, like, he kissed away all my scars and replaced them with new great memories. That kind of phrasing. Whereas in this, it was just like, thought it was going to be awkward. Wasn't. Soulmates. Insane.
Yeah, it just escalated very quickly. It went from literally he's not interested in her,
declaring his love,
to him being like, I love you. And her being like, I love you too. And I was like, I don't buy it. I'm not picking it up.
You have poisoned every inch of me or something.
Yeah. I was like, no, you don't. You don't. It's like, because most of this book happens off screen. Like most of the time happens off screen. I was like, you don't even know each other. Like, have you ever had a real conversation about yourselves?
Which is which is again is why it sort of needed useful fluff because
it needed fluff.
Like next book, a lot of stuff happens off screen, but it's relevant. Like because again, everyone's walking or riding horses everywhere, so it takes 5 days to go sometimes, and we don't need to be with them for the whole 5 days. So it's just like, look, we left. We usually get like, maybe like the first night of travel, like them having their meal.
Yeah.
And then they arrive at the place. And it's like, that's fine. I'm fine with cutting out all the travel because I don't care. I don't want to be with you in the middle of nowhere on horseback for 5 days. But this one, I feel like we could have, I don't know, like, because it's a decent length, the book. It's a fine length. I'm just not sure what needs to be cut to add in the fluff, or if it just needs to be longer.
I think it should have just been longer with fluff.
Or you could have just exchanged some of the poison tasting for fluff.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it's less that it needs to be longer or shorter and more that just some things, you could have said, like, because every single poison tasting's on screen, whereas I don't feel like that needed to be a thing.
No.
Yeah, I think somewhere in the chapter notes as well, she was like, look, ideally, like, Yelena should have been training a lot longer for that, but like, I feel like one, the reader would get bored with poison training, and two, I feel like the commander would get impatient with cold food after several months.
Yeah.
So they gave her an excuse to hurry it up because Valak at this point is tasting the commander's food, but because Valak is very, very busy because he's the head of security for a country, he's always a bit late to the commander's meal time, and so the commander's been eating cold food.
Poor commander.
I think I found, give me 2 seconds and I think I found the voice.
Okay. We get some exposition on festivals. And then we find out about this exercise where they need a fugitive. I was very confused as to the point of this, and then I realized when it actually happened what the point of it was.
What was that?
About the exercise, because they're like, we have an exercise, we need a fugitive. Yelena! And I was like, okay. And then
it was fun.
Oh yeah, I think that's when I started getting interested. Was as soon as she was running around the forest and the trees, I was like, I think I'm interested now. I think I'm into this a little bit. I think that's when.
Got his voice.
Okay.
On the desk were 2 small black statues glittering with streaks of silver. A set of panthers.
Sorry, I went back
like
back 10 seconds too far. Sorry.
You've been tried and found guilty of murdering General Brazel's only son, Rayad. He paused, stroking his temple with his fingers. That explains why Brazel's here this week, and why he has been unusually interested in the execution schedule. The man spoke more to himself.
Like I said, it's very soft. Like it's more apparent in double speed. Like, but with a lot of the vowels, it's just like, oh, I promise. Like at the end,
it's like kind of very musical.
It's honestly less. It's less jarring in double speed, actually.
Yeah, I will say, because in the Glass series there is a different narrator, and it's awful. It's Jennifer Van Dyke who did the Shifter series. This is the woman who made Mark a 1.5 syllable word name instead of just Mark. Like the way she does her R's, it was just really jarring, and it was like it wasn't quite 2 syllables, but it was almost. So it's like 1.5 syllables.
What was it? How did she pronounce it?
I can't even do it because I can't do a hard R. It was like almost
Mark.
It was like Mark.
It's like Mark without the
It was like Mark.
Yeah.
She just drew out the R too long. Weird.
Yeah. but she gives Valak like a male sounding voice, and it gets so jarring. It gets so jarring because it's like I'm used to him sounding like, because it also kind of fits his personality to have like that kind of soft voice.
Yeah.
And
Assassin.
Then he walks into the glass here. It's like, "Hi, how's it going? My name's Valak," and it's like, "Excuse you."
Who are you?
Oh, also, because like I
Who
said,
are you?
it's not really spoilery to me. Janko is who she makes Russian. In the first book of the Glass series, he's like, "I'm Janko." I'm like, "No, you're not."
Who are you people?
What are you?
But,
Say it.
and she says "say" instead of "sigh," like the weapon. Because you know what a sigh is.
Yeah.
It's
a sigh.
it's kind of like it's the prongy thing. So it looks like this long, like kind of like square sword in the middle, and then it's got like the two little bits.
If
of
you
the
can
sword.
imagine like a pitchfork but small,
Yeah.
and the middle thing is
Yeah, and it's spelled SAI, and it's called a sigh.
Yeah.
So I think it's the first two books. She calls them says. I'm like, but they are not says. This isn't a word that Maria V. Snyder made up. This is a real weapon.
Yeah.
it makes me wonder how this doesn't get caught.
Yeah, well, I don't know if Gabra Zachman mispronounced any of the words, but I'm taking her pronunciation as canon.
Yeah, because
Okay.
she's the first.
Yeah, but also then based on the fact that Jennifer Van Dyke says "say" and she mispronounces like other words that should be common knowledge. Like I know "say" might not be a common knowledge word, but it's a real word.
Yeah.
Another word that she says wrong that is actually a real word is it ends up being a thing called curare that actually exists in real life, and she calls it cure because it's CURARE, and she calls it cure, and that pops up next book, I think. So keep that pronunciation in mind, Addie.
Okay.
Curare, 3 syllables.
Yeah,
So she's
where
gonna be
were
the
we?
fugitive. She's gonna be the fugitive of the exercise, and a bunch of people
And then
found out.
Oh yeah, no,
Mhm.
Valak's cranky because people.
Yeah,
found
so
out.
Valak wakes her up by pinning her against a wall, and I was like, is this supposed to be a romantic setup? Again, I'm not buying it. I'm seeing it on the shelf and I'm walking right by.
And he's just like, I try so hard to keep you alive. I move you here. I cleared, because Valak's a hoarder. We discovered when we moved in with him. Mostly because Maria thought it would be funny. Because you imagine an assassin like being like really Spartan living. And he's like not. He's a hoarder instead. Yeah, he's like, I cleared out a room. I let you move in, and now you're just going around telling people that you're going to be out in the forest vulnerable. You fucking dipshit. And she's like, excuse you.
Then we go to the festival. We find out that she was an acrobat, which I think is kind of cool. You know, that's kind of dope. I'm into that. But it's ruined now. And we get some exposition. Okay, this is where I got a little confused because she says here that he did not rape her. And then later we find out bad guy's even badder because he raped her.
She was talking about, throughout all that period of torture and everything, he didn't.
He didn't until the night that she killed him.
Yeah, like he would expose her, he'd have her naked, he'd have her do acrobats with like stones tied to her while naked and stuff like that. And she was like, look, he was a pretty sick pig, but he never raped me.
But didn't he rape her the night that she...
He did. No, but during that period of the torture she was describing.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I
feel like that could be a pantser error, though.
Yeah, I don't...
Maybe she wasn't
planning
on him.
It was just another case of bad guys bad. But you know what's worse? And it's like, okay, we get it. We get it. he's bad. You don't have to make that happen for him to already be a horrible person. Like now it's just like, cool. Add that to the list. Then she gets trapped by some people and they're trying to kill her. Distracted by a drunk dude, which is not a drunk dude. It's actually just Valak. He took down the dudes. A lady named Iris, who is a magician from the south, starts singing. And he's like, yeah, and Valak is like, recite poisons. Yeah.
Yes. And the reciting the poison worked, and Iris was like, "Oh no!" And then she threw down a smoke bomb and ran away.
Yeah, because for some reason, I'm sure we do find out why Valak's immune to magic, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, cool. Valak's immune to magic.
Yeah. But he does describe it. Does he describe it in this book? I think he does, because at the end he's fighting people.
A little. I think he does a little bit.
Ultimately, when magic's being thrown at him, it feels like he's like wading through syrup. So he's not as, and the more magic that's used against him, the worse it gets. So
yeah.
There's some pretty funny scenes that come as a result of him being immune to magic later in the series.
There's only 4 master magicians, and one just tried to kill her. So it's like, oh no, what's happening? She's like, I don't know why they're trying to kill me, bro. Whatever. And he's like, well, you have Southern heritage, obviously, because you're darker skinned. You have green eyes, like, and she's like,
yeah,
oh, okay. And
I don't actually know how dark she's supposed to be.
Yeah,
I've always pictured her as like olive skinned, because also green eyes and stuff. But then we meet some of her clan's relatives who are like hardcore, like black as night. So I don't know if perhaps there's been some some mixing that has lightened her clan down, or not. I don't know, or if I'm just like, or if the green eyes are just throwing me off. But yeah, like I think whenever they've described her skin, it's always come up as more olive, and all the pictures of her has her as more olive. I am confused. She's ambiguous.
Yeah, she's darker than the
skins. That's all we know.
And he's like, unless you're a soul bender, then like, then they might want to kill you. Night, and then yeah. She's like, what the okay? Oh, is it?
Yes, it's soul binder.
I wrote soul bender down. Listen, I just go off my notes. I just read my notes out loud. That's what I do. I hear. Then it's almost exercise time, so she gets all of her stuff together and then borrows a knife from the kitchen.
Yeah. And Rand's glue.
And the glue, yes. Now we're doing the damn thing. We jump right into her running, making a very obvious trail, and then going up into the trees, covering herself in leaves to like camouflage herself. I wrote down she makes a ghillie suit. She just makes herself a little ghillie suit and then just runs around in the trees.
Which
it's
acrobat, so like, you know.
It makes sense. Then Iris finds her. She's like, I can't use my powers with Valak close, and I want to take you to the south so we can teach you how to use magic. And she's like, I'm not going with you, strange magic lady. And she's like, okay, well, I gotta go because Valak's coming. You have a year until we kill you.
There's so magic there's a blanket of power covering the earth. And if a magician, as they call it, flames out, which is where like they can't control their magic and it just goes crazy, it can just warp the blanket, destroy the blanket in some spots, make it too bunched in other. Like it fucks up magic for everyone. It's not good to flame out. So that's why Iris was there to kill her, because she could feel bursts of magic coming from her and was there to her before she flamed out. But she's like, look, you're about a year from flame out, and Yelena's like, well, give me a year.
Because also she's like, I can't go with you because of this poison thing. I have to have my antidote every morning. So,
Yeah.
Val
And then
finds her.
Valak catches up. Yeah.
He
catches up,
steals
he's like,
some
"What's up?"
beans.
Yeah, they see a wagon going and there's like some pods and beans and stuff. Which now in your head, like just Google what a cocoa plant looks like.
Yeah.
And that's what he steals, okay? And he's like, and they're like, "What's this?" And he's like, "I don't know, but I'm gonna follow the." Oh, it's gross. Actually, it's real gross. He's like, "I'm gonna follow the trail, like the wagons, and you're gonna go get yourself captured and go back to."
Yeah.
Commander."
So she gets
They're like,
herself captured by Jenko and Ari,
Yes.
our boys.
And Ari, Jenko's like, "You're a murderer," and Ari's like, "But she looks nice."
Yeah, it's like, oh, she looks so sweet. And it took them over 17 hours to find her, which was like a big ego boost for her. And they're like, dude, people are gonna be mad it took us this long. Like,
Yeah. And then she goes to the commander, right? Like the team captains get reamed. And then when she goes to the commander, he's like, "Wait, so the only reason you got captured was because Valak told you to go get captured?" And she's like, "Yeah, but Ari and Jenko came pretty close twice. And they trailed Valak for a minute. So like, yay them."
They got the closest. So they get
promoted and they get promoted and she gets two big brothers forever because she was like, those two guys are eight.
Yeah, they're chill dudes.
And Commander's like, "Well, I want you to investigate these things." And she's like, "Me?" And he's like, "Did I stutter? Yes, you go." And she's like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So she goes we spend a lot of time researching the pods.
And we spend a lot of time because Ari and Janko are like, "Oh, dude, you got us promotion. Hell yeah. We love you now." Yeah. And they're like, "You ever need anything?" She's like, "Actually, can you teach me how to fight?" And they're like, "Sure, as long as Valak says yes, but we'll start with self-defense." And there's a lot of training. Do a lot of that.
And a lot of running.
A lot of running. Yep.
Yep. And then she's at home doing a study, reading some stuff, and then she hears does anything important happen, like other than what we just said between then when Valak gets back?
No. She just starts investigating his shit again and just going through his entire apartment.
Yeah.
And
finds his art room.
There's a bunch of rocks with and shiny blacks with silver flecky stuff. Statues.
I don't know if we said this, but apparently she is an acrobat. She was an acrobat.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. But yeah, she hears a noise upstairs and she goes up and she's like, I can't remember what she's got the knife and he's just like, hello. And she's like, "Oh, it's you." And he's like, "What were you planning on doing?" She's like, "I don't know." She's like, "Did you knock the shit over?" He's like, "Yeah, I just wanted to see what you do." Well done, you. But maybe return the knife to the kitchen. Okay, because it's missing. And I know it's missing. So do it. Be a good girl. And then she witnesses people fighting Valak in the yard at some point.
Soon. Before this, the food, the magic food comes into play.
Yes.
They start eating the magic food. That's
yes.
Just know that people are eating magic food.
Yes, Brazel sends yummy treats to the commander, which, as you both now know, is chocolate.
Yeah.
Which also,
it's like magically imbued.
Also, at this point, she does know about the commander because her little hint in this scene is that Yelena and the commander both really liked it, and Valak didn't.
I thought that was just because it was magical, and magic doesn't affect him.
That's what I thought as well. But then in her notes, it was actually like a little clue.
Oh, I just thought it was because he's immune to magic. So he was like, I
Yeah,
don't get the
I
appeal
didn't
of
pick
this.
it up. I didn't
Yeah,
pick it up like that either.
I mean, it's obviously not anywhere near overt, and like, yeah, I think the more logical conclusion is it's magic chocolate, and Valak is immune to the magics.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Yelena and like the commander are just like, oh my god, this is amazing, and Valak's like, look, I'd eat it, but it's
But
fine.
Yeah. Then the people are fighting Valak.
And she's like, what's
Why
going on
not?
at Ari? They're like, look, if someone beats Valak, they get to be second in command.
Yeah.
And it's now a thing. And Ari's apparently come close to beating Valak once.
And we
Marin.
see Marin. Yeah.
Yeah, she fights Valak with a bow staff, and she did pretty good. And she's like, I want to learn how to fight with a bow. And they're like, well, you need to go and ask her to do a train. So
she joins our squad.
Yep.
Yeah, she joins the squad. I feel like she's underused the majority of the series. Because Marin's fun. I don't mind Marin.
Yeah, I didn't mind her. There was a point where I thought she had a crush on Valak though, so I was like,
She does. I think she does.
It's hard
Like,
to
I don't
tell.
know. Maybe it's just a deep admiration. I don't know. She has
yeah, because she
a
like
deep
gets nervous
admiration.
around him
We don't spend enough time
with her. Yeah.
with anybody.
With any
to tell.
relationship building.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I feel like we spend the most time actually talking to Janko and Ari. I feel like that's who we talk to the most.
Yeah.
I know, but even their friendship feels rushed.
Yeah. Oh, everything. Yeah. It feels like towards the middle to end, she was like, "Oh shit, people need to have relationships." Oh.
Yeah, I remember the first time I read this. This was like probably 10 years ago. Was the first time I read this, if not longer. When she quotes the inscription on the switchblade, I'm like, when did that happen? I will say that I was very confused. I was like, look, I know they're buds, but that just feels a little bit extreme.
Then Marge wants her to like spy, and she's like, yeah, sure. So I can report it. Yeah, I'll do it. But she didn't say, obviously, that she's doing it to report it.
And I wonder why.
Valak's in a shitty mood.
What did you guys attribute to his shitty mood to, where he's like just throwing shit around the apartment for 4 days?
So I thought at first that it was because we also just found out that the commander's appointing a new successor. So my brain went, oh, he was the successor, but now he's not. That's where my brain went.
Yeah.
And
I think it's been so long, but I thought he knew about the conversation with Marge, but
yeah, it was that
yeah, that's what I thought too.
But he also got triggered when she mentioned Rand, so I was like, okay, maybe he doesn't like how close they are. I don't.
And then we also find out why he, like, with the assumption that Yelena was going to do a spy, plus what we know about Rand, find out about Rand, it makes sense that he's just like, oh yeah, Rand, you two are best buds, you two are best friends, and you're just like each other. Fuck you.
Yeah, that was a very childish thing for him. It's easy to forget his age because sometimes he acts like a little baby.
Yeah.
This is the guy who is in charge of security for a country. He's being a petty little brat.
Yeah.
And yeah, also she has been seeing like a ghost, the guy she killed the entire time.
Yeah, he pops up every so often.
That's just a note that's been happening.
Yeah. Nothing really of note, like, important happens. He's just like, you're gonna get killed one day. And she's like, okay, well, that's nice. And
also, it's unclear as I mean, I'm assuming she did get raped, but it's
She did.
the text makes it unclear at this point in the book.
Yeah, it becomes very clear when we get that flashback. But he's starting to hint towards it in one of their little interactions because he talks to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then she tells Valak her plan, where she's like, "Yo, so Marg asked me to do this thing. So you want to like follow me?" And he's like, "You can go, fine." Meh. Just being a butthole. Let's see. Training. Oh gosh. Then there's someone who's been bullying her. Someone was bullying her the entire time. I don't remember his name. This is the guy that was bullying her. Nix, yeah. And he like tries to like attack her.
Try to rape her this book.
Yeah. And then
now Nix is trying to do a thing, but she kicks his ass.
Yeah, and we find out he was working for Brazil.
Yeah, she works out as well during her training that if she focuses, she kind of enters her. Oh, what does she call it again? Her fighting zone, or whatever. And it's like she can more or less predict like a second in advance type thing, like what the person's going to do. So she does that with Nix and kicks his ass, and he cuts her with a knife, and so she has to go to the infirmary, and Medic Mummy tattles to Valak, and he's like, because she said it was glass, it wasn't glass.
Yeah.
She's like, this shit ain't ragged. And Valak's like, who did this? And she's like, Nix. And he's like, I shall kill him. And she's like, he's fine. Like he's broken, so like it's fine. And yeah, I feel like that was supposed to be like the first hint of like him
having feel
overly fond of her, or one of the first hints.
But like,
yeah.
And then Mistress is also like, she has a crush on you, and she's just like,
and I was like,
no.
where? I also
where
was
is
like,
it?
what? No.
And he's into him apparently at this point now, and I'm like, I don't believe the thing you're saying to me right now.
Yeah, again, I feel like so many of these scenes could have, because like when somebody starts training, it's hard because training is very repetitive.
Yeah.
So usually when we're going through a training period, what we do is we go, this morning we did things and I am sore and we learned this. And then also now here is dinner with the characters because that matters more at this point.
And if we show training, it's because there's character interactions or something else to see.
Yeah.
Or there's some kind of like triumph over the running and now can run. Yay.
Yeah, or it's like
mentally and physically evolved.
Powers or something.
Golf clap.
Yeah. One thing that does get established during the training, though, is Janko likes to do little rhymey rhymes when he fights, and that continues, and in some ways, sometimes gets really corny. But yeah, he'll rhyme as he's like, it's not just as he's sparring, like as he's legit fighting, he will rhyme. But yeah, no. I mean, okay. When we get to the next book, just accept that the relationships are as they are and go from there.
Yeah, I will.
Because then you'll be fine. I will say they are very rushed, this book, or out of the blue, rather.
Then we have the meeting with Marg. We find out that Marg's actually working for Valak.
Yeah. Captain Star, who is like
an information broker, essentially.
Yeah, and other illicit activities.
And Rand works for her.
Yeah, but with Rand, it's more out of necessity to pay off his gambling debt.
Yep.
And Yelena is all of the betrayed because she works out that Rand has been selling information about her to Star.
Yep.
And at this point, I'm still wondering what the.
Yeah,
Honestly,
no, same.
Honestly, the plot of this book is establishing reasons for her to go south, and and I guess killing her past, for lack of a better
Better,
term.
yeah. So let's see. Oh, we have So at this point, the author is trying to sprinkle in some sexual tension by her thinking his pants are on his legs. I wrote that down because I was like, okay. And so there's a brandy party. It's fine. It's literally just a way to make her a little drunk so she can just
all
start.
The generals are there.
All the generals are there, and it's just a way to make her drunk so she starts getting handsy with Valak, and he's like, go to bed. And that's That's it.
She sees him in his uniform, and she's like, damn, he's fine. And he's like, I hate this thing. She goes to the brandy meeting. She gets a little bit white girl wasted, and then they go back to the suite, and she starts giving him a massage and being like, what would you be if you weren't an assassin?
I hated this. I was so uncomfortable.
I was too.
He doesn't like you. I was like, he's not into you at all. And you're drunk. This is weird.
Yeah, and then she tries to make a move, and he's just like, you're drunk, go to bed. And then she goes to bed. And she's like,
That's
what did I just do?
Yeah. And then, like, later, he comes back and he's like, I've been sneaky. Let's find out who the successor is by breaking the code. And we find out it's Brazil, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, also, by this point as well, Janko is now teaching her how to pick locks. And he has bought her a switchblade with old battle symbols on it and lockpicks. And the part of the code to determining the new successor requires usage of translating old battle symbols, and Valak has a book on that, and she's like, I'm going to borrow said book.
Yep. We meet a magician named Mogkin who's working for Brazil.
Yep, and
he becomes a person.
Get into his involvement in
the last 6 chapters.
He was involved in the torturing of Yelena for 2 years. Because at this point, I'm sure we know for 2 years, from 16 till 18, she was tortured, and she's not too sure why. She still doesn't know why. And Brazil, Mogkin, and Rayard were all involved in it.
Yep. She goes through Valak's office to try to find the antidote so she can like go south, and he's like, and he comes in, so she has to hide, and he's like, "Did you enjoy eavesdropping on my conversation, you bitch?" And she's like,
"Yeah," because we see that Valak doesn't always follow the rules.
Yeah.
It's because in Ixia, it doesn't matter if it was an accident, self-defense, whatever. Like, there's a code of behavior, and if you breach the code of behavior for literally any reason, there is a set punishment, and homicide of any variety is execution. So this man, he accidentally killed his own kid, but the kid had crawled underneath the machinery to operate his farm, and he accidentally.
And he's like, "Please kill me." And Valak's like, "No, I'm going to give you a new identity, and you're going to leave."
Yeah, he's like, "Look, there's a bunch of little orphan kids because their parents just died. There's a farm, and they need some help. So can you hire a nanny and go be a dad?" And he's like, "Okay." So he does.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one that Valak doesn't always follow the rules.
Next, we find out that Ambrosia, whatever, the commander, accepted Southern delegation.
Right. There's also in that scene where he's like, "Did you enjoy doing a thing?" I think this is where we're supposed to, like, the reader is supposed to start to think that he's got the hots for her. because she says to him, the quote is, "What have I earned from you, Valak? Loyalty, respect, trust." And his answer is, "You have my attention, but give me what I want and you can have everything."
Yeah, I just I don't buy it. I just
But then,
I'm not
yeah,
picking it
but
up.
then, and then after that, the generals all leave, and we find that a Sishan delegation is arriving, which is making everyone sus because, like, for 10 years, the commander's like being like, no Sishan delegation, and
Yeah,
now a Sishan delegation is coming,
led by Iris.
led
who-
by Iris.
the commander's like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. When he literally hates magicians, whatever.
Yeah,
She tastes, she knows because she's a poison. She's a food taster, guys. We haven't talked about that a lot because it gets really boring really quick. But
Yeah.
she does that the entire book. She is a food taster. And something's poisoned, and it's with the poison from the beginning of the book.
yep. So she's like, my love, and then I do think it was really cute. Like, she was like, I was carried away on a raft of curls,
Um,
and it turns out Ari was carrying her.
yeah. He also tells Ari about some stuff that happened to her in her drug
Yeah,
stupor.
apparently during her stay she was talking a lot, and because when she wakes up, Jenko's there, and this time
Mhm.
she's all clean. She's been looked after this time because Jenko and Ari have been, well, mostly Ari. I think Jenko was just finally like, Ari, you need to fucking sleep. So
Yeah.
he kicked him out and watched over her, and he's like, yeah, you said some things, and Ari would want to kill Raya too if he was still alive. I just thought you'd like to know. And Yelena's like half embarrassed but like half touched.
Yeah. Then we have a conversation with Rand, and Rand is like, "You're in love with Valak, and I hate him." And I do not buy it. Anyways,
Yeah.
we find out more stuff about the contraband beans that are poisoned. We find out that they're the things poisoning the commander.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Also, we find out that the reason why Rand hates Valak so much is because Rand was rebelling against the commander when commander first took over, because he previously served the king. But the commander really wanted Rand to cook for him because Rand is like the best chef ever.
Yeah.
So then Valak made he was serving him like spoiled food, like effectively like pig slop half the time. And so then Valak made Rand's mum the food taster.
Yeah.
So
That's why he does not like Valak.
yeah.
The commander is going to Brazel's estate.
Oh,
Brazil, whatever.
yeah.
Estate.
I'm just
And Valak has to
thinking
stay.
Yeah. There's also they signed a treaty with Cydia at this point.
Oh yeah.
Iris and Yelena have touched base a bit, and Iris is like, "Look, it seems like you're starting to chill out a bit. Like that fighting zone you go into, like that's magic, and it's you controlling your magic. So we might be okay. We'll see." But yeah, it's time to go to Brazil's estate. Rand is being transferred. Yelena has to go with the commander. Valak's not allowed to go. The commander's acting weird. We've had a couple of weird interactions with him, Brazil and Modkin, where it's like he gets a bit trancy. At one point as well, during the Brandy meeting, that's right, Yelena has a vision. She thinks it's a dream of a woman killing a snowcat, which snowcats are impossible to kill. No one has ever killed a snowcat. But there is a woman who has killed a snowcat, and she knows that it's the commander though. And she wakes up and she's like,
weird.
And like believes it, but then she's like, and then she's like, it was probably just a dream. She's like, but they look so much alike. And she's like, well, duh. I know what the commander looks like. I can dream him as a woman. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's where we're at.
And then,
on the way to Brazel's thing, she gets a note. She thinks it's from Janko. It's not. It's from Rand. And it's a trap. Rand, though, then he's like, run, run, run. I don't want to do it dead. And then Rand takes an arrow for her and dies. And then Yelena kills a couple of the people. Star's there. Valak's like, you're under arrest and you'll be a good food taster. And because Valak shouldn't be there, but he's there. Because of course he is.
Yeah, and he's like, stabbing people's bad. And she's just like, what? Okay, yeah, I'm okay. Whatever.
Mr. Assassin.
Then we get to the estate. And she's
essentially
kidnapped to do her duties.
Yeah. And then she manages to escape.
Iris finds her, yep.
Yep, Iris finds her. She finds her old fire emerald. Oh, at this point as well, like a while ago, I think. She's had the flashback about the night that she killed Rayad.
Yes.
She competed at the fire festival. It's a big annual festival thing. She competed in it against his wishes and won. He saw her, so she buried her amulet. She ends up finding it, like in this book. But, Brazel's just like, she's useless to us. Have at it, son. So then Rayad has been keeping a journal from the day he met Yelena about every bad thing she's done, such as not calling him sir the first time she met him, and what the appropriate punishment would be. That punishment for that one was on her hands and knees being whipped, and then while she has to say thank you so more please, I think. And then she has to thank him for being raped while he rapes her. So then they do that. And then he's like, I'm going to have to start a new journal when we train the next girl. Oh, well, page 2 now. And then she's like, no. And she slits his throat.
Yeah. All of the eggs.
Yeah, like it's not even like that feels like a pretty like it's a pretty bad rape. I feel like that one is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a torture rape. And yeah, she slits his throat. So now we're just like, 100% on board with the throat slitting. And turns out the reason why she killed him wasn't necessarily so much she didn't want that to happen to her again. She didn't want any of the other girls in the orphanage to have to go through any of that. So she's like, because Brazel and Modkin were more pragmatic in their torture, whereas he was sadistic. So she's like, but yeah, so she escapes. Iris finds her, and she's like, oh, and then I think Valak comes. I don't know.
Yeah, Valak's on. She's like,
shit.
All right, we'll kill Modkin. Valak's on his way.
Yeah, and they established that Modkin is actually someone named Kengum, who was wanted for kidnapping children back in Sitio. And yeah, so then her and Valak go and do an investigation because they're like, we need to find his power source so we can, because he's got more power than he should. So her and Valak go to, because he's a spy, she knows the place, so they go to investigate. Valak discovers what occurred to Yelena, I am assuming, when he's in Rayad's room, because they go into Rayad's room. But then they find a room full of zombified kids and people sitting in a circle, and they're like, well, this is not good. And then they get captured, I think. Do they get captured yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're going to stay here.
So they get sent down to the dungeon, and they're like, Yelena, you're gonna die because we're not giving you your antidote. And Valak, you will be, and it will be a thing. And because Yelena's poison, she needs the antidote. If she goes 2 days without the antidote, she'll die. So that's like daily. She gets sick long before that. So a day goes by, they're just chilling like a villain. They
in
bond.
their cells, yep.
They bond. Like, why did you kill Rayad? Here's my story. Why did you kill the king and join the commander? Well, here's my story. The king's soldiers killed like his 3 brothers because his family was broke and couldn't pay their taxes.
Then he tells her that the poison isn't actually poison. It's gonna make her feel like shit, but she's not actually gonna die.
Yeah, it's actually a drug, effectively.
Yep.
And the withdrawal symptoms. He's like, look, the withdrawal symptoms are gonna suck. So if anyone ever tries to escape and they start to feel the withdrawal symptoms and they're like, oh fuck, I'm actually dying, so then they'll go back and, you know, be a good little food taster. But she makes it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They think she's dead. Like the guards think she's dead, so they go to check her and they're like, surprise attack. And then her and Valak, they have to wait till like shift change or something. I don't know. They have to wait in the dungeon for a bit after they free themselves. So then you talk over. Oh, what did he even say? What did he say to her?
Oh man, it's in chapter 30.
It's in chapter 30, is it? I'm gonna see if
30. I know.
Oh, here we go. I found it. Yelena, you've driven me crazy. You've caused me. Wait, what? Sorry, this thing is really weird. You've caused me more trouble, and I've contemplated ending your life twice since I've known you. Valak's warm breath in my ears sent a shiver down my spine. But you've slipped under my skin, invaded my blood, and seized my heart. That's more like a
so gross.
I could say, exactly. You have poisoned me. And he rolled me over to face him, and before I could make another sound, he kissed me.
And then they have sex.
And then she thought it was going to be awkward, but it wasn't awkward. It was nice, and their souls entwined, and it was a thing.
Yeah, they blink.
This is on her, like, in her chapter notes, right? And, like, she follows it up with, and I'm sure many of you cried out loud, finally. Whereas the consensus on this stream is, you two cried out loud. Where the fuck did that come from?
I was like, wait, he likes her? I was straight up like, I mean, yeah, good for y'all, but like, you like each other? And then she's like, I love you, and he's like, my love, and I'm like, this is disgusting. And so then she tells him about
from this point on, he refers, like, his pet name for her is Love. So it's like, it's been a long time, love.
I'm so glad they're separated. At
Careful,
the end.
love. Have what you want from me, love.
And then then Janko and Ari are like, y'all are good. Yay, we were coming to break you guys out. Yay. And Iris is here. So we got our squad. And
yeah, now Val knows that she's got the magic beans and that's fine. So
they gloss over that real fast.
Yep. Yeah, so I think her and Valak go to break the circle of the power circle because all the zombified people are magic users that have been zombified.
No, I think that Iris and the boys do that.
No, she went to go and fight Mogkin or find him. Yeah, she went to go fight Mogkin while they broke the circle.
Oh,
and then Brazil rocks up after they break the circle, or while they're trying to break the circle or something. I think. I could be wrong, though. They have to do stuff. Brazil rocks up and he's like, ah! And she's like, ah! And she's like, does it, and like, yeah, he's a very skilled fighter. Rayard's there. He's like, go, Dad! And she's like, fuck you, Rayard! And like, he like goes to do a stab, and she kills him. And then she looks at Rayard and goes, go away. And then he's like, oh! And poofs. Janko's been stabbed.
Yeah.
So they get a medic for Janko. They defeat Mogkin.
Yeah, after finding out she's part of the Zaltana bloodline.
Yeah, he's like, Yeah, he says something
Zoltana should have been
like,
wiped
I
out.
should have known better than to get some Zoltana blood. Oh, the Zoltana bloodline needs to die out. So Frenden's like, you know, bad guy, crap. And yeah, so the fights, they win the day.
Yep.
She's chilling out with Jenko to make sure he's fine. He wakes up and he's like, sup? And she's like, not much. And she's like, the thing you wrote on my knife was pretty cool, hey? And he's like, clever duck doing a translate. And the commando's still comatose though.
Yep.
Oh, all of the kids will never be people again.
Yeah.
So they just get to live as comfortable vegetables. But yeah, so she goes into the commander's mind, and she's like, and it's a woman, and she's just all huddled, and she's like, and she's held hostage by like soldiers, and she's like, how about we just get out of this and like just be yourself? So the woman becomes the commander. They fight the things, and he's like, Yelena, don't tell anyone about my mutation. She's like, I promise I won't.
Yeah.
Oh, and Valak made her a butterfly necklace. He carved her a butterfly necklace out of stone. So yeah, Commander's trans, but Yelena's still banished because she's a magician. And he's like, oh no, if I've got an execution order, Valak won't take it. Oh no. It looks
It's
like
gonna take me a while to find someone. And it's only Valid and Ixia. Oh darn.
Right.
Wink, 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 wink. Get out of the country.
Yeah. And so she has a farewell with Ari and Junko, and they're like,
No, they're
we'll come
coming.
down and visit. Huh?
They're coming.
No,
they're coming with.
They're not coming.
They're not?
No.
Oh, once he's better. Yeah, once he's better, they're coming.
Oh, yeah, but she says goodbye to them. And they're like, well, come visit. And she's like, cool, come visit. And she doesn't see Valak, and she's bummed, and they're on the way there, and then it's time to rest, and then Valak rocks up, and it's time to go to Pound Town. End book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the book.
So the next one we're doing is going to be the next Morganville book.
Yes.
And then we'll come back to this.
Assassin Study comes next, which is just it's a short story novella thing. We could probably fit that in just really quickly because it's kind of, like I said, it's so short.
Okay.
And
That's
I
fine.
remember which of them. I think at least 2 of the short stories or novellas of the study ones, because there's one last one, but at least 2 of them have references and all major plot points for actual books. And I just can't remember which ones, so we're gonna have to.
That's fine.
Yeah, but Assassin's Study will probably take us like half an hour to do.
Yeah, but so that's the thing.
That's Poison Study.
That's Poison Study, and yeah. So the end. So we will see you guys next time for Morganville, and then after that, more of this. So yeah, bye.